want you to know that you never have to be alone. I want you to know someone's always here for you, and I hope you believe it's me. Yes, I hope you believe it's me. Oh, I hope you believe it's me. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Invisible Song Club. My name is Mark Davis-Dallard, and it looks like Angela's still dancing. So say hi, Angela.
Hi, Angela.
And of course, we have a very special guest, Mike Hall, from the Killer Dwarfs. He will give him a good introduction in just a sec. I'm just double checking the sound, and it works, so we're good. We don't want to do another song in silence like we did a few months ago. There we go. So
awkward.
It is. So that was great. Okay, so thank everybody that's joined us online already, whether you're watching now live or you're watching later. If you could give us a like, that would be absolutely wonderful. It really does help out. And please share, like and share, and subscribe and all that other good stuff as well. So we can get as many people to come and take part in the Invisible Song Club. That would be great. So for the majority of the show, I'm actually going to hand over to Angela, who is going to run the show from here on. I'll switch the screen there quickly. There we go. Over to you, Angela.
Yay! I get to do my favorite thing, talking. This Sunday, the Invisible Song Club discovers a great song from the Killer Dwarfs, and Mike Dwarf Hall of the Killer Dwarfs is joining us live on the show. The song is called Stand Tall, and this song is from the 80s. I believe it was released in 86, and it got a lot of radio, or actually got radio play too, but it got a lot of play on Much Music and MTV because the Killer Dwarfs are a very clever, funny band who made some really cute videos and got a lot of attention from their videos back when they were still an indie band out of Oshawa, Ontario in Canada. And the other song that got a lot of attention was Keep the Spirit Alive. So Stand Tall and Keep the Spirit Alive just kept getting played over and over again through their video on Much Music and MTV back in the day. So this song was very popular, especially in the US. The Killer Dwarfs toured the US quite a bit and got lots of attention down there. They complained that they didn't get enough attention in Canada, but those of us who knew who the Killer Dwarfs were paying a lot of attention, and we're still fans. Mike, Killer Dwarf. Mike Dwarf, I mean Hall. And that was one of the funny things that the band did. The band members called themselves Dwarf, Russ Dwarf and Mike Dwarf, and when they were interviewed, people called them Dwarf. It was really cute. And this is, back in the day of the mullets and the long hair. I believe Mike had blonde, long hair. What a cutie, playing guitar. So we are going to review this song, the three of us today. Usually it's just Mark and I reviewing the song. Today, Mike is going to review his own song, his own retro song.
I'll probably like it.
You probably will. And so because Mike is with us this week, we are only going to review one song rather than our usual two. We only have about 30 minutes to get our audience's attention and participation. I hope that, Mark, do we have some people on board here who are going to give us some comments? Anybody join us yet?
We have several people online. I'm only seeing conversation from Anine Ehlers, aka Garnet from South Africa. So,
awesome. I encourage all of you who've joined us, and if you've joined us on YouTube as well, we can see your comments there as well. So please comment, and then we have full participation. This is a song club. So the point of the song club, this podcast, is very much like a book club. So everybody in the club goes away and does their homework for the week and comes back and reviews the song all together at the end of the week. And we don't know what your review is unless you give us some comments. So please participate. And I think that I can hand it over to you now, Mark. Did you have something to add to that?
So do you want me to start the review? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I wanted to, first of all, ask Mike a few questions. So did you want to do that first, or do you want to review the song first?
No, I say let's do the song first, because then
Okay.
that might mar, I might grow to like Mike, and I might not be I might be too kind on the song.
Okay.
Okay, but yes, let's go straight into the review, and then we can have a nice conversation after. I do have as usual, I've got a short clip, 20-second clip of the song, just so we can kind of get a feel for it. So here it is. There we go. It was a short but sweet. Okay, pull my notes over. Okay, so I, as is not uncommon on both the show and the Invisible Man show that I do, I'm not usually familiar with the music that I'm presenting, because I've always been focused on the music that I grew up with, and that were my heroes, Simon & Garfunkel, and some of the some folky and poppy stuff from the 60s and 70s and whatever. So I wasn't actually involved in. I actually wasn't even in Canada when this came out. This is pretty much the first time, my first experience with Killer Dwarfs, and I've deliberately did not read beyond that before I wrote this review. So I've wrote some notes down. This is how I felt. First time I listened to it. Okay, so to put that into perspective. So definitely, I would say my first thought was this definitely sounds quite 80s. I don't know if you're aware of that, despite the fact that it was released in 1987. And I did say I love the hair. I mean, I know it's nothing to do with the song. You've kind of let yourself go a bit there, Mike, on that regard. There are, I guess, there are two parts. Usually I focus a lot on the lyrics, and then I'll talk about the music. Today I'm not going to spend too much time on the lyrics. In all honesty, I don't think that the lyrics really drive the song. I don't think they drive the song at all. The lyrics for the verses are meaningless is the word that comes to mind, but they're certainly they don't push a story forward. They really just kind of seem to evoke some emotions for the most part. So we've got, I'll read the first verse and I'll give you, I'll tell you I think you'll see what I mean. So the first verse, the fear is paralyzing, second gear for flight, the atmosphere is tantalizing, savor every bite. For me, that doesn't actually tell the story at all, but I don't think that's really what the song is about. The song is really about, the chorus says it all. So stand tall, stick to your guns. Might make you scared, but they can't make you run. Stand tall, stick to your guns. Show them what you're made of. Now, Angela, that last word doesn't rhyme. I know we usually bring this up.
I know, right?
It does not rhyme, but it gets away with it. I'm going to explain why that doesn't sound odd. When you read it out, it sounds a bit flat. But you've got the first three lines do rhyme: guns, run, and guns. But it's the performance that lets that last line of, which doesn't rhyme with any of them, work. And I'm going to kind of go into that just a little bit. So I think that's enough about the lyrics. So I think for me, it's the driving melody and the performance. That is really what the song is about. What's really, really clever about this song is it does two things. First of all, it uses an ascending chord progression, and it uses a descending chord progression in the chorus. And what that really does is that the ascending chord progression just lets us know something's coming in the introduction, and it builds some tension. And the guitars come in playing the chords and everything playing together, lots of sustain in the chorus. Then the drums and the drums and the bass pretty much provide all the rhythm for the verse. And where the guitars are just kind of just filling in the background. So when the vocals come in, the focus is all on the vocals and on that performance. It builds that energy with that continual chord progression, the same four chords, just progressing and building that tension, working very well with the melody, and it kind of pulls you into that song. But the important part is it lets you know something's coming. Now, all of that changes when you come to the chorus, and we get that a similar progression, but it goes down. It kind of the energy starts to go down a little bit, descend, as what I would say, and it kind of starts to dissipate that tension, but not really completely. We are still left kind of thinking something else is coming, and of course, that's where it comes. That last line of that chorus is that what would ordinarily be a flat ending with that non-rhyming word at the end is that massive performance, and that's that delivery of show them what you're made of. I think that really makes that chorus work, and you've got that really does settle the tension and give us that delivery. I think the only thing that I could even think of to say would improve the song, I would really rather it than it fading out, end with a crescendo. But this is a few years ago, and you're probably not going to re-record it. But and that's a very minor thing. Anyhow, love the song. Over to you, Angela.
I thought we were going to let Mike have a turn first before I give my review.
Yeah, you're leading the show. You tell me.
Let's hear from Mike.
No problem. You got to remember, we were just little kids when we were doing it. We didn't have a producer. We produced that ourselves. So I think I was 22. Russ and I wrote that in a strip bar in Scarborough called Tony's East at a sound check. And he just had the hook, stand tall, stick to your guns. That's what he said. And I was actually listening to Herbie Hancock. And I loved the way they would keep a bass line going and then play chords over top of it. So that verse, like a G, F add 9, A, and then a G minor 7, it's very jazz oriented for me. But when you pound that through a double stacked Marshall, it sounds like heavy metal. When you go to the chorus, you do a basic 2/5, C minor 7 to an F, and then I throw in a little lick there, and that always reminded me of like Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top. But it's all souped up to be a 22-year-old heavy metal guy. So, yeah, that is the very beginning of him and I even learning how to write a rock anthem. So I never put any pressure on him about his verse lyrics and stuff. I either knew that he was either standing up for himself, or he was angry, or he was happy, or he was sad and gloomy. But I was big on the choruses. So we always wanted that to crush out there. And then, of course, I got to unleash the fury. It sounds like I just got a whammy bar because I'm just going nuts on it. And most of that record was done in the middle of the night because we had no money. So we would do it after midnight down at Comfort Sound down near Queen Street. And we would run down there and stay up all night and do the best we could. But we were very young. And it was the first album I had ever done. So I would feed him these little chord progressions and stuff, and he would go away and come back with his thing. And man, we didn't really, we were not overthinking it. We weren't taking it apart. There was no song club where we were just young guys in a rock band, and just knew that we were onto something. And then the video, I think, is a stroke of genius by Keith Lennox and the other guy that was involved in that. I just show up, but because that sort of gave the song a lot more meaning. It was easier for people to grasp as a piece of visual art, as well as an anthem, stand tall, stick to your guns. So that era, I think, especially if you're listening to singer-songwriters, Simon and Garfunkel and the like, it's a real beautiful craft to be able to write songs like that sort of develop and tell a story. But that was a story only Russ knew. But I'm pretty sure he's talking about the music business, and he's talking about the struggle, and he's talking about how difficult it is to get yourself out there and get yourself ahead. And you got to remember, it's just a young man of maybe 23. I think he's a year or two older than I am. Right. So I was always proud of how it came out, and I still like it today. And I'll tell you, those disenfranchised teenagers back in the 80s sure lacked it, I'll tell you what. Oh.
Well, further to what Mike said, because the song became a hit, and especially because the music video became a hit, the Killer Dwarfs were picked up by the record companies, and then the world was their oyster. So this song was really the beginning of all of that. And you know, in terms of how I feel about the song, I mean, it's not a new song to me. I've been listening, you know, I don't continually listen to this song, but I have listened to it in the past, and I have listened to it again. And it's very typical of what was happening back at the time that it was produced in the 80s. You know, there was a lot of different kind of music in the 80s, but if you're talking about metal, this is what the guys were doing. You know, there was guitar, there was drums, there was a guy with a high-pitched voice wailing it out, and that's the sound you got. And there was long hair, and there were tight pants, and a lot of movement on the stage, and it was a lot of fun. This particular song, when they say, show them what you're made of, and then it goes into, sorry about my singing.
It's beautiful.
And then
beautiful.
it goes into a break. It goes into that silent moment. And I love when that happens in a song. So it presents a surprise when that happens. I love to find surprise in the song. And so one of the things that you guys did with all of your lack of experience was you threw in those elements in the song that really made the listener listen while this was playing. You know, it was very loud, there was a lot going on, and then all of a sudden silent, and there's a very long break. And I think that kind of stuff is what keeps people coming back, because you know, if there's nothing going on, there's no story being told, there's like, you know, what's happening in the song. That's not what happened here in Stand Tall. There was a lot going on. There was very anthem-like chorus. There was some professional musicianship going on. I mean, you really can hear it. And I'm really impressed with Mike's guitar work on it, although it's incredibly simple. The simplicity is what makes it good, actually. It's just really simple, and the band was tight. They did a good job being tight on the recording. And Mark, back to your original point about you're not going to do the song again. The song actually has been done again in terms of a live version. And in the live version that you can get on Amazon Music, you can really hear the drums. So in this version that we're listening to, the drums are not a real focal point, but when you listen to the live version, the drums are really there, and it's beautiful. It really sounds great. I actually like the live version better. So that's my review on the song.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, we've got some comments from, we've got Anine Ehlers, aka Garnet. And she says, loves the 80s sound. Now, Garnet is actually a phenomenal singer-songwriter in her own right. So she's saying, so Angela, that we were talking about this last week about the rhyming, and I guess why I brought it up. She says, rhyming doesn't have to be obvious. It could be a B rhyme, meaning the rhyming is in the phrasing and pronunciation. So there we go. And Kamal Ben Sali says hello.
Yep.
And Anine also says, that's a question actually. Who were your musical influences? It reminds me a little of AC/DC, which I love.
That's a very good question. I think Mike can answer that one.
Sure.
Who were your musical influences, and not just now, but because you've really come a long way since then, but back when you were in your early 20s?
In my early 20s, you know, I grew up on the typical stuff of my generation: Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Aerosmith, you know, Rush, AC/DC, sure, Van Halen. We liked all that stuff growing up. But the interesting or not interesting part is I had just done 3 years of school as a jazz performance major before I joined the band. So I was bringing in some other weird stuff that maybe not every hair metal band was doing on guitar. And at least I thought I was at the time. Time will tell, I suppose. But so all the typical rock guys of the late 60s and into the 70s. And then I got really into a lot of jazz guitar. And I really enjoyed people like Wes Montgomery and Kenny Burrell, George Benson, and I still love that stuff today. And you know, even when I was out playing my own heavy metal songs in that band for all those years, left to my own devices, I still always turn back to that. That's sort of my touchstone musically. I like jazz and blues a lot, but
Nice.
you know, nobody needs to hear it from a 22-year-old guy in 1986 with hair to the moon.
For sure. Any more questions, Mark?
Oh, for sure. Now, Stand Tall is actually widely considered an anthem. Question is, did you set out to write an anthem? Because that, for me, would seem to be an almost insurmountable task.
Absolutely, he was trying to write anthems all the time.
Okay.
Russ really identified with his audience, like he really did, man. And I think he sort of grew up, you know, he's a little guy, and I think he was sort of on the outside of like all the cool kids and stuff. And he didn't like to go to school and stuff, but he always wanted to be a singer and always wanted to be in the music business since he was really small. And I respect that. That's what it's about, man.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, I've tried a couple of times and just found it just doesn't work. I'm more of a, I guess I tend to be more of a ballad writer, but it's a little harder to do.
It's all
that.
good.
Yeah, it's a little harder to do the anthem. Now with collaboration on songs, how collaborative was it working in the Killer Dwarfs?
Well, between Russell and I, very much so. So basically, I would write all the music, like, you know, come up with the entire progressions and all that stuff, and a pretty good idea of how it would be arranged. And he was always jotting, like most singers, or rock singers that want to write.
Yeah.
He's always jotting down ideas and things that affect him, and he would carry journals and stuff. So he was always working on it, and so was I. And then, you know, every once in a while we just get together and compare ideas, and we're humming stuff back and forth, and
right.
And so they were very collaborated on. But it was really set. Like, I did the music, he did really the bulk of the lyrics. If he got stuck, I might try to help him here or there. But he was trying to grow and learn how to be a lyricist himself, and most importantly, express himself. And I think that's where it's at. I don't think he was trying to compare himself to Neil Peart or,
right.
You know. But we did that on our own, and then we would go get a rehearsal space and bunker down with the guys in a case of Canadian, and work the songs out with the other two guys. A lot of times, you know, once I got a little dough and I had a little studio, you know, I would finish the demos. There'd be drums and bass and everything on it. But you know, you always want the other guys to breathe their personalities and their abilities, the things that they do well, onto one of your songs. But in terms of actually writing it, it would basically be between Russell and I.
Okay. Now, do you write lyrics yourself?
I do now.
Okay.
I have since, but no, I was like I said, unless he was having a hard time getting inspired or carving a line through a piece of music that I wrote, I would leave that up to him. And unless he got stuck, then I might throw my hat in the ring and try to help out. But it was just, I respected the fact that he really wanted to express himself that way, and I like that.
Very nice. I got some comments actually from the audience there, if I can. So Gator, it's either pronounced Bolu. So is it Bulu? Okay, yeah, Bolu or Bewley, I've heard as well. So you're saying something else. So apologies for screwing it up twice. So jazz and blues, hells to the air, dude. He says, and always a place in metal for it. LOL. Now, Anine has a bit of a silly question. She says, why the name Killer Dwarfs? And who was the shortest band member And did you guys have dwarf nicknames with the band like Sleepy, Sneezy, Grumpy, and so on?
Well, as far as naming the band and stuff, that was before my time. I'm an average size guy. I'm 5'10". I think the drummer's well over 6 feet. But I think initially the first version of the band, they had 3 tiny little guys up front. And I think one of their managers, an early manager, suggested the name, which when I heard it, I laughed pretty hard. I thought it was absurd. But, I still joined. I thought it was, I never thought we would grow to even the level that we got to. It really wasn't about that. It was about the experience, and it was about playing in a band with 4 guys, that all were different and all got along with the same goal. And I really liked that vibe of it. But the naming everybody Dwarf, which is an obvious Ramones cop, or coming up with a name like that was before my time, so I'm not really sure. But if you ever saw Russ perform on stage live, it might not seem that crazy of a name anymore. He was a piece of work.
Nice. And Dean says that's a great story. LOL. Yeah.
I have a couple of comments, Mark.
Okay, perfect.
Stacy says, great song. And Robin says, I remember seeing them opening for Skid Row. So I don't know if you were at that show, Mike, but I think that the band, I think that the band just brings back happy memories for people. They hear the name Killer Dwarfs and it's a happy memory. Yeah. So I had a couple of questions for Mike, Mark, if that's okay.
You're running the show?
No, okay, I didn't know that. So Mike, I wanted to ask you about your military service, because you've recently just retired from the military, and I know that you were in the Killer Dwarfs. You guys took a break, then you got back together again. And then following that, at some point, you joined the military to be in the military band. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. When I left the Dwarfs initially in 1990, I spent the next 20 years doing what guitar players do. So you run bands and you teach and you do sessions and you hustle and do whatever you can to earn a buck. I had a couple of kids and a house to pay for and a wife that was generally mad at me. So this was pretty standard stuff. And by about 2009, a couple of things were happening. I mean, and I did pretty well at it. I've always been a hard worker, and I could make a living being a musician. During those times, I also played a lot with Carl Dixon from Coney Hatch. I would go out on the road with Coney if they needed a guitar player or even a bass player. I also played with Helix for several years on the road with those guys. So I'd done pretty much everything you can do, wrote commercials, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And that was fine. That's what I trained myself to be able to do. But by 2009, it was, I was definitely looking for another adventure. And suddenly the Canadian Armed Forces mentioned in the local paper, or it might have been a union newspaper or something, but I remember reading it. They're going, we're looking for a guitar player that can play anything, rock, jazz, blues, whatever. But we just want to have a contemporary angle and add that to our normal musical vibe, which is frankly his concert band and his parade bands and stuff. They do a lot of ceremonies and parades and stuff like that, but they wanted to try this new thing. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be a wonderful opportunity for me? But the problem was, I was almost 48 years old, but I was very fit because wasn't a problem for me, but it's not easy. So I went down and auditioned and luckily they felt I fit the bill. And then I went off to boot camp in the spring of 2010 with all the other 18-year-olds. And I was in Quebec for 4 months, getting beasted and getting really fit. And then they assigned me to the band out in Winnipeg. And it's kind of neat the way they had it set up in those days. So there were 6 bands across Canada, 2 Navy, 2 Air Force and 2 Army. And but the one that was in Winnipeg, they thought was the best place to try this out. And they're right. So, we had like a show band that was at different times, I think 20 pieces, like a full horn section, and then with a rock band. And we would do these arrangements of famous rock songs, pop songs, top 40, old hits, whatever, right? And play a lot of gigs all over that area through the prairies. And, the people started hearing about it. And then we started getting offers all over the world. And also out of that, we had an 18-piece big band doing like Buddy Rich kind of stuff. And I started a rock band after a couple of years, like a 5 or 6-piece rock band that played classic rock. We would do Zeppelin and, AC/DC and whatever, the Police, whatever we wanted to. And I eventually started writing. The band did 3 albums during the time. No, I did 3 albums during my time in the military, but that band did 2. So it was a great opportunity for me and allowed me to basically bring all the knowledge I had into a completely different, not only musical situation, but a completely different culture. So it was a real eye-opener, to say the least. But I enjoyed it. I really did. I met some of the best people I've ever met. And I often felt like what we were doing really mattered and really helped, because our goal as military musicians was to support our soldiers, our sailors, and our airmen wherever they are. And, I had the opportunities to go play for our guys in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Alert, Greece, Latvia. I've been to South Korea. I mean, just stuff I never thought I would ever see, let alone participate in, with a loaded 9mm on my side. But I really dug it. It's not for everybody, but for a patriot like myself, it was perfect.
Nice.
You are truly Canadian, Mike. On behalf of myself and on behalf of Mark and on behalf of our audience, I would like to thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
The story is beautiful. We do need to wrap up. We try to keep our show at a half hour. I just would like to say to the audience that we are currently talking about the Killer Dwarfs in the past tense, because we are talking about a very old song, but the Killer Dwarfs has not gone away. Russ and Daryl are working very hard, and as recently as 2018, I believe, they've toured with some really heavy-hitting bands, and they're still publishing music. So I encourage you to check out the Killer Dwarfs' new material. Mike Hall's not involved in that material, but the Killer Dwarfs are alive and well, and this show is to support that as much as introduce you to some of their older stuff. So thank you very much, Mike, for joining us. Yeah. Mark, did you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you very much, Mike. It's actually been it's been actually some funny stuff, some fun stories there, and some insight as well. So that was from a band that before Angela had introduced me, I had not heard of. So it's been fun. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, well, he was busy listening to Simon and Garfunkel, right?
Yep. And Dylan.
You gotta get you away from that.
Bob Marley. Don't forget,
Anyway, this is a fun show. It's a very fun show.
That's been good. Okay, so I guess we'll be wrapping up. Just so those of you who have just or joined us a little bit later, if you can, we'd appreciate if you could like the video and share it with your friends. Put it on your Facebook page and so on and so forth. That would be absolutely wonderful. Angela has her own project as well, Oh Just Eats It, where she reviews Canadian bands and Canadian music as well. And I'm involved in the Invisible Man show, where we promote independent music from around the world. So we love music. That's why we do it. So find more out about Angela's project, ohjusteatit.ca and theinvisibleman.ca. I think we should be good. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And thanks once again, Mike. It's been a pleasure. And we'll catch everybody next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.